Good morning, internet, or evening, or whatever time of day it is. This is going to be a different kind of video. So some might say I found another interest. I might say I found another addiction and I decided I would bring it to the internet and to whoever decides to view my channel's personal thoughts. I love analog horror. Like, seriously. The backrooms were alright, but that was because I had heard the backrooms when they were a creepypasta and urban legend long before there was the backrooms analog horror series. So I was already a fan beforehand, having heard some rando over a story talk about how he stepped between two stairs and fell into the backrooms. That being said, since the backrooms got big, and since analog horror got so popular, I've gotten really big into watching other analog horror stuffs. I've actually spent the last 2 or 3 days of my free time watching other people watch them. So I figured, why would I keep watching other people watch them when I can be the guy watching them and giving my 2 cents? I haven't seen a lot. I've seen a few. Anyway, let's get into it. Alright, so our host today is Mr. Manticore. Please, for the love of all that is holy, go sub to this YouTube channel. Show some support. Because honestly, when it comes to creators like this, analog horror takes way too much time for how short a lot of these videos can be. Some of them can be up to like 12 minutes, I think I've seen, unless they end up spending like even more time to try to make it a single movie instead of making it multiple parts. A lot of them left open-ended. So please go sub to this channel, show your support. But if we're gonna go into this deep dive, I'm gonna need to keep my little icon here, or my PNG tuber. As much as I love him, I'm going to need him to keep him tiny for this, because if we're gonna do a deep dive into these videos, that's just how it's gonna be. Okay, so we're starting with Corner Folk. In 2011, Riley Tylan uploaded 3 videos describing an unseen presence in his home. A 4th video in 2013 raised concerns over his safety and prompted official investigation. Upload 1.
Many dimensions intersect with their own, several of which are 2D planes. When 2 or more planes intersect, they form corners. Entities in the intersecting planes cannot perceive each other. They exist separately, in their own worlds. However, the corner folk can pass these boundaries and enter other planes. The corner folk are a trans-dimensional species. They are the only ones who can traverse the corners shaped by planes. Coincidentally, I believe that the corners of my own home align with several planes, for I have seen the corner folk in action, crossing the corners from one reality to another.
While making this video, I heard the corner folk and immediately grabbed my camera. This is what I recorded. So, you're recording dimension hoppers? Yeah. Yeah, dimension hoppers. Could you slow it down any further? It's really hard to catch that. Analysis.
This leap requires massive amounts of energy that, when released, produces bright blue flashes. I have yet to discover the source of this energy, and the reason behind the corner folk crossings remains unknown.
Upload 2. Corner folk
While I was
update.
at work, my cameras captured up to 12 corner folk huddling in the doorway. I used to think that they had to cross dimensions quickly, but the new footage has proven otherwise. When I'm not around, they take a break from traveling and exhibit micro-movements similar to
They look a
dreaming
lot
animals.
different when they stand
They must
still.
feel safe in these corners, which suggests that the corner folk's own home is made of similar structures.
The corner world.
I imagine that their corner world is made of many plane intersections, allowing them to move freely without using up any energy.
So because they can...
Photographs show that smaller corner folk have odd impressions on their skin, as though they had been pressed against many plane intersections at once. The corners likely belong to a nursery or a crib in their homeworld. A multitude of corners placed in close proximity could be used to secure the infant from leaving the corner world. Perhaps they only cross corners in search of food, the same way we only leave our homes for resources. The corner world may be used to raise young, while my own house's corners serve as rest stops of sorts during their journeys.
So you assume that their world is comprised of... Holy crap, you've gone mad.
I've begun to dream of the corner world. I can't stop thinking about it.
Yeah, I bet you can't.
According to the calendar, I've spent entire weeks in my home, just drawing and describing the corner world on paper. I lost my job last month due to repeated absences, but it really does feel like I just left the office this afternoon.
No.
When the corner folk jump, it feels as though they're taunting me. But I'm close to a solution.
Because you're stuck in your reality?
Regardless of whether my body survives the forces of the corner world or not, this much is certain. The fear of my own destruction will not prevent my entry.
Upload 4. I thought they were talking about 3 uploads. Do you think if you just leap into that corner, you'll pass into another reality? Yep. He tried jumping into the corner to see if he could escape his dimension. What the hell? That's loud. Following his last upload, viewers requested a wellness check on Riley. Local authorities found Talon asleep in one corner of the room. Upon closer examination, revealed his internal organs had been folded along various axes. During his recovery, he made an origami despite claiming to have never been taught how to do so. As of 2020, he remains in the care of his friends. His organs were... Hold on. Time out. No, not that. During his recovery... There it is. Following his latest upload, viewers requested a wellness check on Riley. Local authorities found him asleep in one corner of the room. Closer examination revealed his internal organs had been folded along various axes, warranting an immediate medical attention. During his recovery, Talon avidly made origami despite claiming to have never been taught how to do so. As of 2020, he remains in the care of his friends. So, with that being said, that means that he actually made it to what he classified as the corner world. The world in between the in between the walls. Because that would mean that he got there, but his body wasn't equipped to handle it, and so he was folded like a... I guess the best way is to say, instead of scrambling like an egg, he got folded like an omelet. Interesting. Episode 2, Liberty Lurker. Following audio is an excerpt from an 1889 interview with the designer. The most difficult aspect of the construction was the pedestal. Although the statue was intended to be a gift for the U.S. ambassador, urged us to follow President Grant's request. We agreed, and each month we received varying size requirements for the pedestal. After 4 years, requests to change the side of the pedestal ceased. People wonder why the pedestal is so much taller than the lady, and all I tell them is ask the Americans. In 1949, the statue underwent extensive renovations. The official blueprint behind changes, titled STLI, provide entrance to sustain... Whoa, what? engine, axle, wheels, entrance, stairs, drain, waste storage. What? During the summer of 1954, thousands of immigrants described a foul odor while passing through Ellis Island. Ellis Island was awful. The whole place reeked of flesh like a slaughterhouse. There were also dead birds everywhere. My sister even found one in the toilet. If this is how the coast is, my father said, imagine how bad the cities smell. I remember hearing other families half-jokingly say that they wanted to return to Milan because of the smell. My family had sprayed perfume and burned candles to keep the stench away, but it would only work for an hour or so until the air became unbreathable again. The evenings were so hot, I stayed mostly awake, even though the rest of my family slept soundly. I remember looking out the window each night and seeing lines of people being led to the Liberty statue by officials. After they would go into the pedestal, the officials would leave and nothing would happen. The following morning, we would smell so much worse, like a slaughterhouse. The Ellis Island Immigration Station closed the following November. August 1985, first sighting of the Liberty Lurker. Upon investigation, local authorities likened the waste storage compartment to a mass grave. If you have family members who were last seen in Ellis Island between the years of 1949 and 1954, you may be entitled to compensation. What? Time out. Hold on. Pause. Okay, where is it? Okay, so first thing's the blueprints. So the entrance is right here. The stairs lead down. There's a drain right here, I assume for blood. Looking at how that is, the drain has a pipe that goes immediately to waste storage. However, that means that literally they would bring them in, something had to be in here that would kill them, probably eat them, and then whatever wasn't finished was disposed in here through this entry hatch here, and the blood drained through the floor. I'm assuming. The generator was probably to keep whatever's in here contained and only have use these wheels up top as a release latch, if need be. But why would you want to release this thing? Why would we even keep something like that? Also, right about here, when we actually see the thing, right? Come on, settings, playback speed, normal, 0.25. Go. No. We had it. I was hoping you'd show us more. God, I keep barely missing it. Come on. Alright, this is as much as we're gonna get out of it. What I'm looking at seems akin to a centipede. And I only say that because from what I'm seeing here, it looks like two pincers. And then a mass in the middle. But the mass is pulled back compared to these two sides. Yeah, I wish I could get more of that before I could determine it. But I'm assuming that's a centipede. Now, let's see. In 1949, the statue underwent extensive renovations. The official blueprints behind were titled STLI 18084, was classified for 36 years. Provide entrance for sustenance. Install engine to assist with eventual departure? Eventual departure. Eventual departure. But we've only got that one moment where it actually comes out. So is this the eventual departure that they were talking about? Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, on to the next one. Alright, video 4, Rushmore's Revenge. August 7th, 2003, the National Park Service finds Mount Rushmore National Memorial vandalized. The souls of Lincoln will be freed. The blood of Lincoln will be avenged. The U.S. government can't fund mass murder if it's labeled a national monument. Eventually, what was that? I can't read that one. Wait. The U.S. government can't fund mass murder if it's labeled a national monument. Every day, executions occur in 2,600 American landmarks. The blood of liberty will be avenged. The souls of Lincoln will be freed. August 14th, 2003. More messages are found on Mount Rushmore. I will begin infection. I will introduce infection next week, Monday through Sunday, 10:12 to 10:13 p.m. Infection of what? August 18th, 2003. Due to security concerns, National Park Service assigns patrol for the next 7 nights. Patrols are told to videotape all anomalies from 10:12 to 10:13 p.m. Oh, there's something in the air. God, you don't give me confidence for 2003 videotapes. Is it just me, or does Rushmore look a little bit whiter around the eyes? What's with the blinking light? I think that's Morse... I want to believe that's Morse code. The flashing. Because that's been done in the military before. Wednesday. Odd calls. Thursday. The mountain is taking up, like, all the faces are becoming more distorted. And there's something protruding out of the middle. Friday. Rushmore is almost completely gone. There are almost like no faces anymore. There's just something protruding out of the top. Saturday. Remove lens cap. Wow, you're great, guy. Remove lens. You guys sure are smart. Remove lens cap. Sunday. What's with the screaming? Oh, hold up. Time out. Whoa. Hold on. Holy crap. So the faces are completely gone. The faces are completely gone, as I said. And there's just massive protrusions on the top. And they look like they're moving. Mount Rushmore smells just like baby powder nowadays. I think it comes from all the stuff that the workers put on its heads. Yeah, I see them do it all the time. They go from Washington to Lincoln every night, powdering it like a baby. Hannah McElroy, local photographer. Why? Why do they powder it? Why do they powder it? Anyway, moving on to the next one. Alright, Alcatraz attack. Hello, Alcatraz. Alcatraz Island, 2 days before therapy. Map of Pacific Branch. Alcatraz Island. Fortifications. Tunnel. Reservoirs. What is that? Because that doesn't, like, this can be explained. This is a water tower. Yeah, it's a diagram for a blueprint. What is that? Morgue. Back stockade yard. Detector shed. That's main prison. That is straight up a cell. Ruins? Question mark? Tennis courts. Alcatraz Island, 1 day before therapy. Alcatrazosis. I know exactly what this thing's going to do. That is a cell. It's mitosis causing cell replicate. Yeah. So in this universe, something is underneath the Statue of Liberty. Whether it be alien or giant insect monster thing. Mount Rushmore, there's something up with Mount Rushmore. I can't come up with a theory for that one. And Alcatraz is a living structure. Because it's literally practicing cell division in itself. Actually, that explains what that one thing was. Where is that? Right over there, where I had said, like, what is that? Next to the reservoir. That must have been a mitochondria, the powerhouse of the cell. Yeah, right there. Powerhouse of the cell. Alcatraz Island. Radiation therapy. They're trying to kill it. Radiation kills cells. Projected movement. 1950, 55, 1960, 65, 70, 75, 80, 95. By 2000, it will have reached the mainland. One day after therapy. Whoa! Holy, there are multiple of them, and they're moving. As of 2020, the Alcatraz zone extends to West Texas. Holy crap. That is some movement. Okay, so from what I get from that, where is it? The projected growth. So what I'm assuming is Alcatraz will come over here, and assuming that its barrier is semi-permeable, it'll consume the surrounding area and continue to multiply until it runs out of food, if it works like a normal cell. That being said, and they said by 2020, it's already moved to West Texas, which is like miles and miles and miles from here. That is nuts, considering the fact that, like, they were saying by 2050, it would be done with all of its, like, current location? Jesus Christ. Alright, so now we have Dean Democracy. Dean Democracy, a look back at America's 37th president.
During a program of ABC Evening News, anchor Peter Jennings told viewers to look forward to next week for a special broadcast of national significance. Jennings would continue to remind viewers of the special broadcast over the next 7 nights, even referring to it at one point as the most unprecedented announcement in recent history. A week after its first mention, Jennings reminded viewers of the special broadcast one last time, asking them to pay attention later that night for an exclusive look at the greatest gift to the American people. Due to the anticipation built over the week, over 60 million Americans tuned into ABC, waiting for the evening news to end and for the special broadcast to begin. There were countless theories as to what would occur, from the announcement of alien life to the declaration of an all-out nuclear war. Speculation was brewing intensely. Once the evening news program ended, a black screen with a 10-second countdown commenced with the title Dean Democracy. Some viewers, so terrified of the threat of nuclear war, reportedly experienced nervous breakdowns and ran down the street, declaring that Dean Democracy was the code name for an all-out nuclear holocaust. Yet once the countdown ended, all fears were soon replaced with tears of joy and an excitement not seen since the end of World War II.
What are we waiting for? Let's bring them back home.
Dean for president.
In the seconds following James Dean's presidential announcement, hundreds of thousands of neighborhoods erupted into celebration.
Wait, James
Although
Dean
other
was president?
candidates had promised to end the Vietnam War, none had so accurately expressed the same anger that they had felt, which Dean had perfectly conveyed in a 15-second broadcast. Due to popular demand, the ABC Evening News was canceled the next night, replaced by a 30-minute loop of James Dean's presidential announcement. The broadcast was watched again by over 38 million Americans, and the parties continued for the rest of the week.
They love Dean so much.
Due to repeated assassination attempts on Robert Kennedy, the Democratic Party presidential debates were canceled for the 1968 election season. However, this proved to be no issue for Dean, as polls indicated that he was in the lead for the entirety of 1967 and 1968, despite having had fewer public appearances and rallies than any other candidate. The strength of his campaign relied on the powerful advertisements he directed that would air every Friday evening on ABC. The series of programs would be considered by many as another weekly TV series and went on to become the highest-rated TV show on television after the conclusion of Star Trek in 1967.
Damn, bigger than Star Trek.
Although a presidential debate was eventually scheduled 2 weeks before the election, James Dean instead invited opponent Richard Nixon to a track to race cars on the same night. Although reluctant at first, Nixon eventually agreed and went to spend the entire day with Dean, reportedly even telling the actor, "To hell with it, I'm voting for you. You're already a better president than I'll ever be."
Yeah, damn
This
right.
statement, although only a rumor, would spread like wildfire in tabloids and permanently curbed Nixon's chance for victory. On the morning of November 1st, 1968, 4 days before Election Day, anti-Dean groups hijacked radio channels and told civilians they were fed up with James Dean and that television was ruining American youth. After the broadcast, the groups went on to cut hundreds of power lines in the southeast, effectively preventing any of Dean's presidential ads from reaching any household below Tennessee. Dean quickly heard of the incident and, despite the risk of an assassination, flew down to the south and quickly went to work with local electricians to repair the broken power lines. James Dean would be met with a supportive crowd, primarily younger voters who were eager to see a younger face back in the White House.
Agreed.
Elderly white conservatives, often the parents of the younger supporters, remained in their houses and occasionally peered through their window blinds to catch a glimpse of the handsome candidate. Although it wasn't known to Dean at the time, hate groups in the South had perpetuated the idea that he was Satan in disguise and cited his good looks and his love for jazz as being clear signs of the devil.
James Dean's America.
James Dean is no man.
Howdy, Satan. I love the mustache they gave him too. Going
Elderly
all
white
Wario.
conservatives in the Southeast would be the only demographic unfazed by his campaign, yet Dean continued to travel from state to state, repairing power lines for 4 days straight until the very morning of the election. On November 5th, 1968, James Dean received 75% of the popular vote with 395 electoral votes. Nixon congratulated Dean in a phone call the following morning, but Dean refused to acknowledge the win and instead asked to race cars again at the track. On January 20th, 1969, James Dean held his inaugural address at the official Capitol Raceway. Although presidents in the past had speeches that were typically around 20 minutes, Dean spoke for less than a minute.
I have a speech, and it has the flotsam that you people expect to hear. But that's not fair. No, that's not fair at all. I'm here for all of you. It's only fair that you speak for yourselves. My words shouldn't be louder than yours. So I've brought many other guests to speak. They're just people like you and I. In the same time that many other presidents have spoken by themselves, America will speak. Thank you.
That's the way you do it. Money
Dean
for
proceeded to
nothing.
introduce many groups to the microphone, including civil rights activists and Native American families. Martin Luther King Jr. would also come forward to speak in his first appearance since an attempt on his life 9 months prior.
9 months prior.
President Dean would conclude the inauguration with a brief bongo performance and went on to race Richard Nixon at the track. In subsequent presidential inaugurations, those who disagreed with the elected president would instead celebrate Dean Democracy Day and protested by watching Dean's unique take on the address in place of the actual one. In a televised address, President Dean planned to inform Americans of his first 90 days in office. However, 6 seconds into the broadcast, the audio cut out and remained absent for the remainder of the speech. Although anti-Dean groups claimed that it benefited the president, many civilians claimed that it responsibility and took pride in the sabotage, many civilians claimed that it benefited the president. The silent broadcast highlighted President Dean's sincere facial expressions and lively disposition, as opposed to the stern and stiff personalities of prior administrations. Viewers were proud to see a man in his prime at the most important position in the country. Ironically, President Dean's popularity grew after the technical difficulty, and film director Stanley Kubrick went on to call the broadcast the greatest silent film ever made.
Okay, so this is interesting because this isn't the rest of Monument Mythos, but I'm starting to believe that when I ended up saying when I ended up saying in this universe, quote unquote, I was using it as a I couldn't think of another word to say it for this series, but I am really starting to believe that this is a completely different universe's a completely different United States in a completely different universe, looking at all of these different monuments, and they're really not all that they are. Because I know for a fact that Nixon was the 37th. And Nixon was a complicated guy. I want to say a-hole, but Nixon, yeah. There's no way he would have raced his candidate. There's no way he would have said that he was worse. He was a worse president than the guy he was running against. Then on top of it, like, to say that this guy was so good that even 1969, that even when his audio cut out, they paid attention to his facial expressions, and Stanley Kubrick, one of the greatest directors, ended up saying it was one of the greatest silent movies of all time. That's a huge stretch, but that does show that this is a very charismatic president. Anyway, let's move on to the next one. All right, Air Force Angel. On August 17th, 2003, Air Force One made an unannounced trip across the continental United States. Many civilians claim to have seen the aircraft drop packages on various national monuments. Wait a minute. Hold up. Already I've got a red flag. Many civilians claim to have seen aircraft drop packages on various national monuments. Is the Air Force One Angel the thing that caused all these national monuments to... No, because this is 2003. But then what are in the packages? Anyway, let's keep going. That's Rushmore. Seattle. Hold on. So, right off the bat, okay, we saw it go to the other monuments in the previous videos. The fact that it went off the coast here, off the coast of California, concerns me. Also, the fact that the United States here is, like, torn in half, I think that and possibly this dot right here, which was Rushmore, these two had to have started destroying parts of the US after their subsequent things take place. Or at least this might be the prediction. Because then it lands back here and suddenly this part of the States is going. Jesus Christ, that scared the crap out of me. I don't see a face on it, necessarily. White House officials later disclosed that the unusual flight of Air Force One was unauthorized and unmanned. The lone figure seen inside the plane, dubbed as Air Force One Angel, has yet to be identified by federal authorities. Interesting. Made an unannounced step. Huh. I don't know what to say. Because completely and honestly here, when it comes to this, like, where is it? I can justify, I can't, I both then can and can't justify the fact that the Angel took the same trips to the same monuments that we've already seen here so far. However, the Statue of Liberty was being planned since the beginning. The one for the Statue of Liberty was being planned since the creation of the Statue of Liberty, because the U.S. president at the time had to put in his 2 cents on they needed to build the base bigger, that kind of thing. And then they ended up giving it renovations to be even bigger and have more technology in it. Yeah, that's fine. Rushmore ended up degrading. And currently, at least from the looks of the map here, because it did say it went to South Texas, in this timescape, in this map area here, the rock is currently, like, eating all of America here. Or integrating with all of America here. I can't decide on the two. Just something to chew on. Let's get to the next one. The Lincoln Looker.
I was a Lincoln Looker for 2 weeks. It was terrifying. One moment you're at home answering the door, and the next you're stuck in some kind of suit. The smell was awful in there, and the metal seat was so cold. The only thing you can do is look through 2 little holes. It was some kind of mask, and whenever the sun shined near, I could see the inside of it. It was a familiar face. Every few nights, straws would be put through the holes, and someone would feed me some weird soup. After 2 weeks, they found out that they had misidentified me, and I wasn't the correct Lincoln Looker. Reagan apologized to me personally, and I was released with some monetary compensation. They don't care if I talk about it or not. No one would take me seriously. Lincoln looking is just too absurd.
The Mask, drawn by Maya. What the fuck? Yeah, it's a Lincoln mask.
There's always that someone that we dislike more than everyone else. Not usually famous or important, but they've done something that's affected us personally. Often you're the only person who remembers this act. And I've been that bad, but memory hurts. Everyone experiences this, and the president is no exception. Except he can do something about it. Every president can choose one person to be a Lincoln looker. After the alibi is fabricated, the person is abducted from their home, and they stay a Lincoln looker for as long as the president sits in office. Nobody can question his decision, and it's no trial.
Hold up, time out. So you're telling me that the Lincoln looker, the person who's stuck in what she just said, sitting in a metal chair you can't get out of, with a mask on your face, and the only way you can friggin' eat is through a straw, and whatever they feed you, they feed you. But the idea is, every time a new president is in office, they can choose one person that wronged them at any point in their life, no matter how little, how big it wronged them, and they become this person trapped. Alright then.
You might be surprised, but it's nothing new. It's been a tradition. Lincoln lookers have been around for a very long time.
Due to rumors that Lincoln lookers were imprisoned behind presidential portraits, White House officials publicly removed and reinstalled the portraits to demonstrate there was nobody behind them. Nobody behind the portrait. Portrait 2. Nobody behind the portrait. But then what is a Lincoln looker?
Hello, we are not available now. Please leave your name and phone number after the beep. We will return your call.
Hey, Eunice. It's Howard. I don't know what I just saw. I was at the top of the steps, reading the inscriptions and talking to visitors, when I started to hear a faint scratching sound. I didn't think much of it at first, but when I got close to the chair, I realized that the scratching was coming from inside the marble. So I went to a guard and asked whether she could do anything about animals that could be trapped in there. She told me not to worry about it, and that they'd take care of it once there were fewer visitors.
They're trapped in the
A few minutes
actual
passed,
Lincoln
and the
Monument?
scratching became much louder. I went back to the guard and asked what kind of animals usually got stuck in there, and she said, wild animals. The sound started to make visitors anxious. I remember one boy pulling so hard at his mother's hand, begging to leave. A blind girl with one of those canes went up to the chair and pressed her head against it to listen. Then she started crying. Her parents tried to pull her away, but she just began to hit the chair with her cane. That's when the guards asked everyone to go back down the steps. I don't know why, and it's going to sound crazy, but I felt compelled to help. So I went to the blind girl and joined her in hitting the marble. The guards tried to pin us down, but the scratching became too loud for even them. It sounded like someone was shaving down a chalkboard. Eventually the marble began to crack, and a few more hits caused the crevice to expand all the way to the top of the chair. There was a sudden burst of air from the damage, and the head suddenly turned toward us. I was afraid it would fall, so I picked the girl up and went down a few steps. The head slowly rotated back into place, and when it started to be pushed upwards, I took out my camera. It was no wild animal.
Howard Melrose recorded the following images. What the hell? That's not a human. Okay, maybe it's a human? So, I've never actually seen the Lincoln Monument up close. I kind of wasn't expecting this. I was kind of expecting... So they say you're strapped into a metal chair, and you are fed food only when you can. You're stuck looking through here. But from what I'm seeing, and I could see it, like, it's a giant metal chair, you're stuck inside his chest cavity area kind of thing, and you're stuck in here looking through the eyes of Lincoln. That's... If it's a hand, that person is scorched. Like, partially melted. Let's move on to the next one. Alright, video 8, Washington Wormhole. The special tree.
The forest fell swiftly as the lumberjack swung, except for the special tree, which could not be stung. She missed her friends and the hymns they sung, so she started a tune that broke the man's lung.
Ooh. Timeline of events. (1840). First photograph of the special tree is taken. Construction begins. (1861 to 1865). Construction halts due to the American Civil War. Makes sense. Prisoners of war are seen being led into the unfinished tower. (1888). Construction is completed. 1910. Visit the Washington Monument and listen closely. Hear the music within the walls. 10 cents per head. Washington Monument becomes a major tourist attraction. Music within its walls. 1910 to 1971. 61 years. From 1910 to 1971, 20 individuals disappear while visiting the Washington Monument. The missing visitors are known as Washington absentees. (1972) Washington Standard Operation. A classified film titled Washington Standard Operation is leaked by news agencies. Monument entrance door. Hoisting cable. What sound waves? Sound waves come up. The body is knocked unconscious and then dropped from the top of the Washington Monument. Cycle repeats. That is definitely a height that would kill somebody if the sound waves only knocked them unconscious. 2000. The infection is nigh. The music of Washington will end. Washington Monument is vandalized in 2000. The infection is nigh. The music of Washington will end. (2003). Yeah, it all accumulates to 2003. That's the top of the Washington Monument. Is it wilting? Oh. All 19 Washington absentees were found unconscious at the base of the monument. There was 20, though. I have another theory. It's a weird theory, but it's a theory. So, I'm starting to wonder what the Air Force One Angel's role was, having stopped at all the monuments that we've seen in previous videos so far. And for some reason, at least with the first season of Monument Mythos, where is that? They specifically state the year 2003. The year 2003 is when these things start coming up where it says the infection is coming. And then this infection comes, and anything related to these monuments, even the ones with the special trees, end up doing something. So I'm very curious if that has something to do with it. Anyway, let's move on to the next one. Video 8, Delaware Double. Delaware River, USA.
An accidental discovery made by two fishermen has sent shockwaves across the nation. Around 4 p.m. on Christmas Eve, Ralph Grassman and Michael Tillen were reeling in the last batch of catfish when something on the ice caught their eye. It looked like a bicorn, one of those had some...
Hold up. Time out. Michael Tillen? Because Michael Tillen... Wasn't Tillen the name of... Yeah, that was... Tillen was the last name of the guy who was, who jumped into the corner at his house. The corner jumpers. Or corner? God, I've already forgotten the name of it. The dimension hoppers, basically.
Batch of catfish when something on the ice caught their eye. It looked like a bicorn, one of those had from way back when, said Grassman, the other of the two who had also organized the trip. Grassman walked down the ice to retrieve the hat. When he pulled back the hat from the ice, tumbled back in shock at the sight of a human scalp, partially exposed in the ice. Tillen walked over and after a brief discussion with Grassman, agreed to remove the rest of the body from the ice. The effort took several hours, but by 10 p.m. the fishermen were able to pull the entire body from the ice with no further damage. Although both men had presumed that the individual was already dead for some time, Tim exclaimed in shock when he reportedly saw the individual's eyelid twitch. Grassman suggested to immediately take the body home and attempt to revive the frozen man. They proceeded to carry it back to Grassman's apartment. They laid the body in a full bathtub, gradually raising the water's temperature throughout the night to prevent shock. Grassman claims to have learned this technique from a pulp magazine he had read as a child. At 2 a.m. the following morning, Tillen claimed that an individual briefly regained consciousness and shouted, "Victory or death," while Grassman rested in the living room.
Victory or death?
At 7 a.m. the frozen individual appeared to have relapsed into a deep coma, which prompted Grassman to phone the local authorities. When asked why he hadn't called medical personnel earlier, Grassman told reporters that he didn't want to risk the lives of the first responders, who had been driving on slippery roads in the dark. Shortly after being phoned, paramedics arrived and rushed the frozen man to the Delaware State Hospital. Throughout the experience, both fishermen thought that the individual's face seemed vaguely familiar. It was only when Tillen pulled out a dollar bill that the connection was fully made. When we first dug him out, we moved his clothes so that we could carry him more easily. Clothes weighed a ton because they were completely frozen over. By then, if we saw the clothes without ice, then we could have no doubts that we dug out George Washington. Although Delaware
George Washington
declined to comment on the identity and the condition of the man, Grassman brought the bicorn hat from the previous days of the Delaware History Museum, where historians confirmed to be an authentic piece from the 18th century. The validation raised more questions than answers, as further research revealed that no Washington reenactors or artifacts have been reported missing. Grassman believes that the man he dug out from the ice is the true George Washington, and that the former president had become gravely ill while crossing the Delaware River. Grassman claims that the imminent death of Washington could have been devastating to the war effort, so his condition was likely kept secret by having a double acting as the president until 1797. When asked for an explanation to why the body had been found so far from the site of the battle, Grassman replied, either drifted away or his men purposely planted it far away so that no one could find it. During Saturday's morning press conference, President Dean shared his thoughts on the discovery in 2 words. I'm surprised.
Thank you, James Dean. Thank you, President Dean. Okay, what the hell? Delaware Double aired on 12/27/1976. 1976. Okay. So that blows out one of my theories, because I was afraid that this was in, like, the early 2000s like the rest of everything else. That being said, kind of nuts. It's kind of nuts that they'd end up accidentally stumbling across the real George Washington, who had apparently been replaced by a double because he was ill shortly before the battle and would have destroyed, like, morale if he had died while in battle. Interesting. Video 10, the Rockefeller Tragedy. I remember when the Rockefeller Center just was demolished or destroyed by unstable beams in 1937. I like that part of history. I like learning how we learned from it.
During the first winter of the center's construction, the workers set up a Christmas tree just outside the entrance. It was an uncanny sight to see a green fir stand in the middle of what appeared to be a no-man's land. But this tree, humbly ordained with strings of cranberries, buttons, and tin cans, greatly affected me. It demonstrated that even in the darkest of times, the American people will light the beacons of hope. I thought it could be the start of a great and inspiring tradition, so I traveled north to Babylon in search of a Christmas tree for the following year.
Yeah, because 1937, wasn't that the Great Depression?
For 12 days and 12 nights, Mr. Rockefeller looked for the best tree in the forest. How about this one, Mr. Rockefeller? No, it's much too short. How about this one, Mr. Rockefeller? No, it's much too tall. How about this one, Mr. Rockefeller? No, it's much too average.
Too average?
Mr. Rockefeller soon feared that he would leave empty-handed. Then, on the 12th night, just as he was packing up his stuff, Mr. Rockefeller heard the sweetest tune in the air. It sounded as though the very wind itself had fallen in love. He and his men followed the song and found themselves at the base of a very, very special tree. How about this one, Mr. Rockefeller? It's perfect. For the rest of the night, the men swung their axes at the special tree. Chop, chop, chop. However, when the sun rose, the tree was still standing. Their axes had left no marks at all. Mr. Rockefeller was surprised. The next day, Mr. Rockefeller and his men laid 100 sticks of dynamite around the tree. 3, 2, 1, boom! Yet, the special tree continued to stand. Mr. Rockefeller was surprised. So Mr. Rockefeller decided to hire the best team of grave diggers to take the tree out of the ground. After a week of digging, they told Mr. Rockefeller the tree will be out in 3 years at this rate. Mr. Rockefeller was surprised, but he decided to let the grave diggers work. He would pick the next 3 best trees for the next 3 Christmases. But by the 4th year, the special tree was ready to display.
So, before we continue, I just wanted to take a moment to state the fact of... So this is the second time we've heard about the special tree since the Washington Monument. And they always share the same characteristics. for some reason they give off a sound, a music, a song of sorts. Because the Washington Monument, where the tree was in the tip of it, the tree ended up, I'm assuming, growing inside of the monument, but they had specifically used sound waves or song to be able to subdue the people that they brought into the monument. And now we have it saying that this tree also makes music. And the other characteristic is that it always has 3 branches.
For the last 2 years, I have seldom mentioned the tragedy that occurred at the center. Many have taken offense at my silence, claiming it to be the result of a desensitization to workplace accidents. Indeed, I have seen enough accidents in 3 lifetimes, but nothing could have prepared me for what happened at the center. For some time now, my friends have blamed the center's original construction workers for the tragedy, since it was their very own Christmas tree that had started the whole tradition. But the truth is that their tree brought joy and wonder to the public. It was my tree, and my tree alone, that brought about the unprecedented loss.
What do you mean by your tree brought unprecedented loss?
On a cold December morning in Midtown Manhattan, Rockefeller's men slowly raised the special tree. Heave ho! Heave ho! Heave ho! By the afternoon, the special tree stood tall and still. It was unlike any other tree, having no color, branches, or leaves. The mayor of New York, Mr. Guardia, thought that the tree was too bare and asked for branches to be added so that ornaments could be hung. Mr. Rockefeller didn't agree. He thought the tree was perfect, just the way it was. But since Mayor Guardia had been one of his best friends, Mr. Rockefeller told his men to glue some branches on. I, Virginia, watched as the men placed branches on the special tree. I had saved my money for over 9 months to purchase a little star ornament because I wanted to be the very first person to decorate the Rockefeller Christmas tree. It laid in my pocket while I watched because I planned to hang my ornament as soon as the tree was standing. After the final branch had been added and all the men left, I quickly ran up to the tree. But to my astonishment, the lowest branch of the tree was over twice my height. I jumped as high as I could, but still, the lowest branch was out of my reach. I was very disappointed. I wanted to be the very first person to decorate the tree, but now I had no chance. Unless I called my friends. At once, I began counting my friends on my fingers. There was Helen, Charles, Elizabeth, Alice, Joseph, Elsie, Orville, Edith, Olive, and Philip. 10 friends that I could ask for help. Then I realized that 10 friends standing on each other's shoulders could put me at the very top of the Christmas tree. My star could be the first and the tallest. Without a second to spare, I ran from door to door asking for help. Knock, knock, knock. Helen, are you there? Knock, knock, knock. Charles, are you there? Knock, knock, knock. Elizabeth, are you there? Eventually, I gathered all 10 of my friends at the bottom of the Rockefeller Christmas tree. I told them my plan, to have them all stand on each other and form a ladder for me to climb to the top. My friends understood my excitement, and they quickly started to climb onto each other's shoulders. Ow! Helen had stepped on Charles' fingers. Ow! Charles had stepped on Elizabeth's fingers. Ow! Elizabeth had stepped on Alice's fingers. After many groans and tumbles, my friends formed a sturdy ladder, and I began to climb. My joy grew with every passing face, and before I knew it, I was at the very top, looking down at the tree. My ladder of friends swayed back and forth and occasionally felt like it was about to collapse.
Yeah, that's a dangerous
But I
task you're
turned
doing.
off the movement and focused on the tree. Closer, friends, closer. Then I secured the metal star at the top of the tree. It was perfect. Hooray! Victory! I'm the first! Just then, there was a strange sound. The tree began to shake. Its glued branches fell off all at once, and the entire tree slowly bent backwards. Soon, the very top of it touched the ground, forming a perfect arc.
But what causes
It
it
was
to
like a
bend?
very strange rainbow. My heart sank.
Because
as
this
I
is the
saw
one
my
instance where
star
they don't
gently
mention
slide to the
infection.
ground from the tree's top. Bolts of lightning then shot out from inside the arc of the tree, producing thunderous booms. The lightning scared my friends and me. We all tumbled to the ground and ran in all directions, but the lightning caught up to us. I was blinded by a great white light. I remember when my eyes adjusted, I was in a field of special trees, and I saw... In a flash, I returned to the street where my friends and I had been struck by the lightning.
Hold on.
We were all on the ground,
Hold
being
on.
attended to by other people.
Time out.
A field
And I...
of special trees.
And... Hold on.
And
I saw so many people. One man ran up to me and whispered, "The trees are not trees."
In a flash, I returned to the street where my friends and I had been struck by the lightning. We were all on the ground, being attended to by other people. I had scratched my legs badly, and I could see that my friends were also hurt. I looked up at the Rockefeller buildings, and I thought that they looked a little different. The whole street looked a little different, and the special tree was nowhere in sight.
So, they specifically say that the special trees are not trees. I'm still calling this maybe multiverse theory. This is a completely different universe. Because when they all got struck by lightning, they came back. They eventually came back, were woken up back where they believed was home, but home looked a little different. Not super different, but a little different. Tiny details here and there. The street looked a little different. The people looked a little different. The city looked a little different.
It is only natural for the reader at this point to wonder why the incident has been referred to as a tragedy. There had been no loss of life, and, aside from a few temporary scorch marks on the center, no damage to the surrounding property. I, too, assumed it was a mostly inconsequential event, likely an electrical accident whose effects were exaggerated by the children at the scene. I was grateful that every life involved had been spared. A death at the center would have weighed heavily on my mind for some time. But when I encountered the results of the children's medical examinations, I wished that a death had occurred in place of the unfathomable.
My mom and Pa visited me at the hospital, but they looked completely different. Ma looked worried. After she wiped her tears, she asked, "Did you hang your bear at the Rockefeller tree?" I answered, "It wasn't a bear. I was going to hang a star." To which they asked, "What do you mean?" Pa asked, "Where did you get these clothes?" I answered, "These are my clothes, the ones you helped me put on this morning." To which they asked, "What do you mean?" My ma then asked, "Why are there dots all over your face?" I answered, Those are my freckles. I've had them since I was little. To which they asked, what do you mean? My parents quietly left my bed and talked to my friend's parents. Then they all started to cry and yell. The nurses made them leave, which made me feel better. None of us thought that our real parents had visited, but they all did feel familiar. Orville and Philip were especially shaken. They didn't even share the same last name with their parents. The nurses tried to convince us that those who had visited us were our parents, and that we would come around to properly greet them after we healed. But it was hard to believe. Whenever I looked out the window, I saw that Manhattan looked different from memory. Mr. Rockefeller himself was kind enough to visit us in the hospital. He asked us whether we were okay, and then after some time, he and the nurses began to ask us some very easy questions about American history. With every reply, they would chuckle and shake their heads, until I told Mr. Rockefeller who I thought he was. He chuckled at first, and then became silent, as if the simple fact had deeply affected him. He had asked all my friends a few more questions about himself, and with each answer, he seemed a little more scared. Mr. Rockefeller quietly stood with the nurses for a while, before he wished us a Merry Christmas and left. That evening, the nurses took x-rays of us to make sure we hadn't broken our ribs. Usually, those taking the x-rays are more than happy to show their patients what the pictures looked like. But when I asked to see them, the nurses ignored me. I didn't fall asleep that night. I kept my ear close to the wall to hear what the nurses were saying next door. I heard one sentence over and over. Everything's backward. I wonder what they meant by that. I never told my friends because I didn't want to scare them. But I spent the rest of the night with my hand to my chest, wondering if my heart was ever on the right side.
The right side?
For several weeks, the children were kept under observation at the Columbia Presbyterian Hospital. I visited them as soon as I had the chance to. All the families of these children were deeply unsettled, for they had all independently come to the conclusion their child had been replaced by a doppelganger. They claimed that these new sons and daughters possessed substantial differences from their real children. The majority of differences involved altered physical attributes and the inability to recognize familiar locations and characters, such as their parents and their homes. Two boys even claimed to have names different to those that their mothers had given them at birth. But of all the discrepancies, the most bizarre was their faulty recollections of notable persons and events. For instance, each of the affected children claimed that I had become the wealthiest man in America through an oil monopoly. It is common knowledge that I did indeed work at an oil refinery in my youth, but to entirely deny my 2 terms as president and insist instead that I had always been a mere philanthropist struck me as being particularly odd. The families were agonized by the children's behavior. Some continue to search for their real children. I support their endeavors, for I do not believe that the children's afflictions were the result of hysteria. Every day, I find myself recollecting the day that I had selected the tree. I have since realized the difficulties involved in the removal of it should have repeatedly discouraged me. and had I been discouraged, the families of those children would not be experiencing the anguish that they currently have. Perhaps I never had the opportunity to select another tree. Perhaps I was meant to select that tree regardless of my persistent character. Perhaps we are all trolleys, forced to follow the path of the track to each of our destinations. I take solace in that thought. Or perhaps the tree chose me.
Okay, so that's the end of both their stories. Many, including my father, believed that the 1934 Christmas tree vanished. This is untrue. I've seen it wandering the plaza on many occasions, and it resembles a man far more than any tree. John D. Rockefeller Jr. So it's his son, Rockefeller Jr., that sees the tree. Interesting. So a few things that change that solidify my belief that it's multiverse theory, but also changes how we deal with the timeline of events here. Because in my mind, I've been saying we're in an alternate timeline taking place in the same year frame. However, from where is it? Right here. So he asks a few different things. He asks, basically, George Washington asks apple. So did George Washington cut down an apple tree? I'm assuming this is to be him. Yeah, I think this is him with the hat and the beard. Maybe I can on the other frame. Okay. Yeah, no. They ask, like, did Lincoln wear a round hat, I think? No, he wore a big top hat. When was the Constitution signed? In our world, it was 1776. In our universe, it was 1776. In this universe, it was 1786. So it was 10 years later. So there's a 10-year difference in just that alone. Which means there might be actual evidence that says that, hey, if theirs is a 10-year difference from us, then maybe certain minor details might be what changed. Maybe the Air Force One Angel is the thing that dropped the mysterious trees on individual landmarks around from these previous videos. Maybe, maybe not. I want to believe the Air Force Angel was responsible for that. Also, what is this? GE, General Electric? Called it. Hold on. Time out. Hold up. Time out. That is literally the depiction of the Air Force One Angel. That is the same looking being that we saw on the Air Force One. I think I might have something here, but I'm not sure how much. But let's move on to the next one. Video 11, Canyon Crown. My crazy Grand Canyon adventure. Nice beach you got here, man. Me and my brother in deep thought. He's gonna fly. Please don't jump. Then I saw something really weird. Oh? This is really blurry. I see some movement, but I don't know what it is. It made the whole place smell like vinegar. There's also a really weird hum. Rock on! Ha! I see where you got that from. Then I saw it again. No exclamation point? Okay, a little bit clearer here. That hum is still in the air. I've never been to the Grand Canyon, but I don't think that's natural. Well, there's something there, alright. Yeah, there's something there, but... Whoa! Hold up. Time out. No. No. That was a face. That was a massive face. Time out. Hold up. I'm gonna mute this, and I'm going to put on the back play speed to 25. Watch it come in. There's like two hollow eyes. It's like two hollow eyes, a nose, and a mouth. That is nuts. That is nuts. Anyway, let's keep going. I'm sorry I keep pausing in the middle of the video, but some of this stuff just needs to be looked at a little bit deeper. Caution, sheer cliffs. Control your children and pets. Oh no, we're gonna die! Mr. Squirrel! How do you know it's a mister? We did a little research and found out what we saw. It's called Canyon Gallon? Or the Canyon Crown. It uses vinegar to shrink its huge head back into its body. My dad said the reason we went on this trip was so he could find his sister Maya. I think that was Maya. Why is that person headless? Why is that person headless? What's with the headless people? Oh, heads off trail. My Crazy Canyon Adventure! Yay! So, what's the deal with heads off trail? Because I'm assuming this is their dad, and this is their this is his sister. But there's all these things of, like, him being headless. Which I don't know if that's something because of the trail that they're on or not, but... There's snow on this hill. Or this mountain. So that makes me question a lot of things. And this cameraman is headless. Why is it called Headless Trail? I don't know. Alright, this is the last video for Season 1 of Monument Mythos, Freedom Faller. Part 1, The Sculptor. Excerpts from a series of exchanges from 1858. Thomas Walter to Montgomery Mage. Liberty must stand on the Capitol. Yes, I'll find an artist to bring the statue to life. Montgomery to Thomas Crawford, the sculptor. Would you provide us a design for the statue? Most certainly. Freedom 1, Freedom 2, Freedom 3. Freedom 3 will do, but change her cap. I'll remove the cap and begin the cast. 6 weeks later. Freedom is difficult to cast. Apologies for the delays. 3 weeks later. Is Freedom on her way? Alfonso Zaffino. Inspector Zaffino speaking. Mr. Crawford passed away. Monarcha will receive Freedom. Expect arrival within a month. Monarcha? Part 2, The Daughter. Text and illustration by Nina Crawford. Read by Italian student in Gibraltar. Gibraltar? Papa's sketches for Freedom are beautiful. She looks like Mama if she was a queen. I asked Papa if I could make the statue look like me. He said yes. Papa went to his studio today. I asked whether he started working on my statue yet. He just kept smiling. I think he is. Papa's very kind. We have not heard from Papa in a few days. This has happened before since he likes to work in his studio for a long time, but Mama is very worried today. She left for his studio after she tucked me into bed. Mama returned home tonight. She went straight to her room. Inspector Zaffino came by today. He asked us about Papa and then went to Mama's room a few moments later. More men showed up. Mama was crying. She kept yelling. She has his eyes. She has his eyes. I was scared. I ran out of the house. I remember Papa telling Mama about how the statue would be put on a ship named Monarcha. I went to the docks and found her anchored nearby. Next to the ship were some boxes. Parts of Freedom were in each box. I crawled into the box that was empty, hoped to be sent to where Papa is. I feel his spirit around Freedom. I'm very hungry. The boxes are tied with rope, so I cannot get out by myself. There's a loud noise in the room, like clay being dragged across the floor. I can hear the ropes being cut, and something big coming out of the boxes. Is it Papa? There are more sounds, like wood being broken. Since the ropes broke, I actually got out of the box and found some bread and fruit in the room next door. It isn't Papa, but it has his eyes. I'm scared of going into the box again. It made louder sounds yesterday. While I gathered food, I think the men saw me. The box is the only place to hide. The ropes keep being broken, and the thing with Papa's eyes... I'm scared. I'm scared that either it or the men will open my box. I will not write as much because I'm afraid of making noise. I will write again when I am on the land.
Non scriverò più molto, perché ho paura di fare rumore. Scriverò nuovamente quando arriverò sulla terraferma.
The thing with Papa's eyes took me today. It held me as it ran through the jungle. Its sword cut hundreds of trees. I could not see much in the dark, but I could see Papa's eyes staring down at me from those metal eyelids. We went down a hole deep into a cave. After it let me down on the ground, it started a fire by hitting its arms against rocks. It has been sharpening its sword on the rocks for hours now, but it has not ever looked down. Papa's eyes have been looking at me. Since I've started writing today, the thing with Papa's eyes has been looking at me. Part 3, Captain. Excerpts from a captain's log of the Monarca.
19 aprile. 6 casse sono state caricate all'alba.
April 19th. 6 crates were located at dawn. They are heavy, each containing a part of a large sculpture. Inspector Zaffino told me that it is the goddess of freedom. Each crate has been fastened with ropes in the storage room. No sliding is possible.
29 aprile.
We landed in Gibraltar at dawn. The ship took hours to steer into port. There were many, many holes in the storage room. Each one allowed enormous amounts of water to enter. Without the tar, we would have sunk. In 3 days, April 29th.
C'erano molti buchi neri postiglia. Ciascuno di essi ha permesso d'enormi quantità d'acqua di entrare. Senza il catrame saremmo affondati in 3 giorni. Abbiamo aperto le casse per...
We opened the crates for customs officers. The crates were empty. So by the 29th of April, basically Freedom had reassembled herself and had already been wandering about the ship.
Gli ufficiali della dogana. Le casse erano vuote.
Gibraltar. Part 4, Commissioner. Written and read by the Commissioner H. Morgan.
On the morning of April 29th, we received numerous reports regarding a tremendous force that rushed up the rock, which tore down hundreds of trees and created several landslides throughout the previous night. One civilian likened the phenomena to the work of a gigantic crazed fella. Due to the sheer number of reports and the high level of concern in the surrounding community, I deployed myself along with 13 officers to the rock in search of an explanation. We discovered that there was indeed a newly forged trail through the dense foliage stretching almost the entire height of the rock. The trail was astonishingly linear, with no bends in the path. The cuts to the trees themselves were precise. The downed trees continued to be worn to the touch, presumably due to the extreme speed of this force. A few fires present along the trail were extinguished by fellow officers as we traversed the rock. The path ended at a large crevice in the ground, which looked to be an entrance to a large underground cavern. After requesting additional men and equipment, Officer Hadley descended into the crevice. It was not long until Hadley exclaimed in fright and urged us all to enter. Within the following hour, the majority of us were in the cavern, which appeared to be an undiscovered offshoot of St. Michael's Cave. In the middle of the location stood a plaster model of a tall Greco-Roman statue of a woman. Surrounding this sculpture were the splayed remains of an individual, flattened like a set of clothes. A hollowed-out torso was stretched a quarter of the way up the statue, the sight of which compelled a few of the officers to exit the cavern. The human remains were collected and sent to the morgue, while the sculpture was cleaned and lifted out. The statue's blade, held in its right hand, matched the cuts present on the downed trees. Despite the fantastical implications of this detail, the Gibraltar police force officially concludes that the work of the crazed fella was nothing more than the result of heavy winds.
Yeah, just heavy winds.
During a secondary investigation, a journal was discovered in the cavern. translation of its Italian text is in progress.
Part 5, The Craftsman. Time out. I need to process it for a second. The statue took... So, the daughter that was in the cave, once she finished writing, they said that she was folded like laundry. And a torso was stretched across the body of the statue. Freedom took his... Did Freedom take the creator's eyes? Freedom killed its creator, then proceeded to, when being shipped off, take the child of its creator and try to make itself look more human. From what I get from that, because it sounds like it took the bones and the body of the daughter of the one that created it and tried to make itself look more human. That is nuts.
Arrives the tight-knit wooden ship. The plaster body is absent. Instead, a tall, wounded woman sleeping in its vessel, donning a helmet wrapped in a robe, clutching a sword and a damaged shield. Overheard a conversation with the captain, a violent conflict with Freedom at the port in Gibraltar. They tell me inside her is the plaster, and I walk away, silently believing Freedom craved liberation so terribly, she tried to take it for herself. But off the ship, she was dragged away. Freedom locked up. Freedom in chains. They tell me I have to take it out of her. So hook, rope, peel, and pull. When it was done, Freedom stood motionless. Freedom stood still. I see the final bronze woman, and I feel as if, maybe even hope, she's only dormant now, and will awaken again.
Part 6, The Sculpture. Hold up. Anti-Dean Association storms U.S. Capitol. Millions look in horror during the attack of democracy. Shortly... Oh, come on. I wish I could read more. Statue of Freedom is shot down by Anti-Dean Association gunfire. She's moving again. God damn, yeah, I was right. So, she ended up she knew she was just going to be put on display. So she ended up making herself look more human. Then, when they removed all the things that made her look more human, she returned to a statue. Then when they placed her up the top there and she was shot down, she immediately started trying to make herself look more human again to hide away. That is nuts. That is nuts. Is there anything else at the end? February 2021. Oh, that was the date that this was written. Okay. Alright, Internet. So that was the first season of Monument Mythos. Please leave a like if you liked it. I'd love to do more of this stuff. I like theorizing. I really do. I know game theory and film theory and style theory and food theory kind of dominate the spectrum when it comes to all theory videos, but I love this. Please show your support for Mr. Manticore. I've already subscribed. I can show you I subscribed. I'm happy to subscribe again on my other channels that are rando accounts. But this has been a decent video, I feel. I hope you guys enjoyed. I appreciate it if you stayed this long. Hope to see you in the next one. Later.